This video will reduce your anxiety. A bold claim? Maybe, but here's the thing. I know what it is you're anxious about, and I'm here to tell you exactly why you don't need to be. Welcome back to the channel, or if this is your first time here, I'm Tim Box. I'm a mind coach and anxiety specialist, and for more than a decade now, I've been helping people get control of their anxiety response. Over the years, people have come to me with all sorts of anxiety-related issues, but I've noticed that I tend to hear a few recurring themes. And I mean those big, scary thoughts that bubble to the surface and convince us this is going to get worse, spiral out of control, or even ruin us irreparably. You see, when we experience high levels of anxiety for a protracted period of time, the thing we're inevitably most anxious about is our anxiety. And with that concern comes a whole host of accompanying worries and fears. But here's the thing, those fears, whilst common, are almost always completely untrue. In this video, I want to put some of those big looming anxiety fears to bed once and for all. So without further ado, let's talk through 5 of the most common fears I hear, and let's see if we can do something to calm some of that anxious process. This one is probably the most common fear of all. I'm losing my grip. I think I might be going mad. We're not so much concerned about how we feel currently as we are about where this might be headed. Is uncomfortable anxiety going to get worse to the point where it leads to debilitating mental breakdown? First off, let's reassure you, feeling highly anxious or even being diagnosed with an anxiety disorder does not mean you're going mad. Having a mental or emotional health issue and experiencing mental breakdown are two completely separate things. In fact, the very nature of this fear, worrying about your own sanity, is a clear sign that you're not insane. People experiencing true psychosis don't tend to be concerned about their mental state in this way. So the fact you care about whether or not you might go mad means you very probably aren't going to. Secondly, the number of people who experience anxiety to the point where it becomes an issue represents about 30 to 40% of the world's population. Of that number, the amount who then require any sort of hospitalization or forced intervention is incredibly small. And those that do tend to be the ones who didn't heed the warning signs when they started to become overwhelmed or overly stressed and just did nothing to put things right. The very fact you're here watching this video means you're interested in learning and finding out what you need to know to look after yourself. So this kind of rules you out of any group that might be vulnerable. Anxiety isn't a sign of impending madness. It's simply your mind being overly cautious and protective. And that's something we can work with. When we're in the grip of anxiety, it can feel like it will never end, especially if it's been going on for a long time already. But that's just a trick of the moment. It's our current perspective being accepted as the only view there is. The truth is, all our emotions are transient. They come and go. Anxiety is no different. Even the most intense emotion doesn't simply remain constant in perpetuity. Your anxiety has come and gone more than you even realize. Yes, you notice when it feels bad, and that might be often enough to trick you into thinking it's constant. But in truth, it isn't. It ebbs and flows. So whatever you feel currently, the one thing you can be certain of is that this too shall pass. And it's worth noting that the only reason the way you feel seems to have stuck around so long is because you've treated those anxious thoughts and feelings as something to fear. That means whenever there's been the slightest trace of that, you've focused on it, become alarmed about it, and amplified it. It's your focus on it and what it means to you that has intensified it. But know this, every negative or uncomfortable feeling you have ever had has passed, and this one will too. It's not uncommon for the clients I see to be quite good at solving problems. Many are high achievers, and most are used to taking action whenever action is needed in the face of a challenge. I'll often hear them say that their anxiety is the one thing they don't seem to be able to fix. No matter what they do, it just doesn't work. Well, that's because it's the doing that's the problem. Now, don't get me wrong, I get it. When we're in pain, it's natural to want to take action. But often, we've simply mistaken anxiety for a problem that has arisen. So, a happening rather than what it actually is, a doing. You see, anxiety is an emotion that part of our mind has deliberately engaged to fix a perceived issue, whether it's a health concern, work that needs to be done, or the need to prepare for an upcoming situation. Anxiety is your mind doing something to meet the perceived challenge. It's not an alien invader, it's a part of ourself trying to help. So anxiety isn't a threat, and this is why we don't need to launch a counterattack. In fact, the more we try to fix anxiety, the more we send ourselves the message that it's dangerous and needs to be fought, which just ramps it up further. So what if we just accepted it, let it be there, got on with our day even with the discomfort? What if we deliberately did nothing to try and fix this? It turns out the solution here is to encourage our mind that it doesn't need to do anxiety, and we do that by letting it know we're not under any threat. When we stop resisting anxiety, we often find it settles much faster than we thought it would. It's easy to assume that if we feel this bad, there must be something fundamentally wrong with us, that maybe we're broken or flawed in some permanent way. But that simply isn't true. Even if we were to accept the idea that some of us are genetically more prone to anxiety than others, and even though there's no way of finding this out, we just assumed that we were one of them, it's actually our environment and our psychological patterns that are the biggest contributors to how anxious we feel from moment to moment. And those things, of course, are things we can change. Yes, we've probably been through some stuff that impacted how we feel about things moving forward. Perhaps we've been left feeling more vulnerable to certain situations and ideas. But every emotional response we've learnt can be relearned, and we can update and upgrade our patterns of thought and response. The bottom line here is that as much as you might feel it, you're not actually broken. You're just responding in a way your mind, for whatever reason, currently thinks is helpful. Once we start giving ourselves permission to feel what we feel without mistakenly concluding we're stuck like this, and accepting that where we are now isn't a fixed position, it's surprising how quickly anxiety reduces. There's a lot of talk these days about the damaging effects of chronic stress. And yes, long-term anxiety can be draining and certainly takes its toll. I've lost count of how many clients I've seen who tell me how exhausted they are, both mentally and physically. But in all cases, the effects of long-term anxiety are reversible. You see, your body and mind are incredibly resilient. In the same way the thing your mind does best is learn, the thing your body does best is heal. Once you step out of that constant state of stress, you'll be amazed at how quickly you can bounce back. It's easy to lose faith in our natural resources when we're in a state of high anxiety. And of course, when we Google stuff, we get told the horror stories. But don't confuse cautionary tales aimed at those that deliberately run themselves into the ground in the name of the constant hustle with genuine concerns you need to worry about. Have a bit more faith in you. Any current state of high anxiety isn't doing permanent damage to you. It's just draining your resources temporarily. You feel rubbish, not because you've ruined your health, but because you're overtired, overstressed, maybe even a little undernourished, and as a result, your body and mind aren't firing on all cylinders. Give yourself time and space, and again, it might surprise you how quickly you recover. So let's be really clear. You're not anxious about how you feel right now, you're anxious about where it might be going. The what-if thoughts, the catastrophizing, the imaginings of how bad it might get. But none of that is actually real. They're just stories your anxious mind is telling you to try and keep you safe. Hopefully this video has helped put some of those fears to rest. You're not broken, you're not doomed, you're just a human being having a very normal human experience. So what do you think? Did I fulfill my promise to reduce your anxiety? Let me know down in the comments below. If you found this message reassuring and want to dive deeper into managing your anxiety, I'd love to invite you to the members area of the channel. There you'll find exclusive content, including full access to my control system, my Clear Your Head Anxiety Relief Program, and weekly live Q&A sessions where I answer your questions directly. Just click the join button on my homepage or use the link in the description below. But for now, as always, thank you for watching, be kind to your mind, and I'll see you next time.